What will you do to unlock innovation? In today's fast-paced world, innovation might not be enough. Tomorrow's pioneers of change will need to be agile, able to adapt, and committed like never before. Your host, Sana Vinding, invites you to listen in and join business leaders from around the world as they share their visions for success in our future business challenges.
Welcome to Mind Innovation. I'm your host, Sana Vinding. I'm always excited to learn. And in today's podcast, we're going to talk about the 4 Ps of business. I want to welcome Peter Mohr. He's the president of Shootopia, and he's also a coach, speaker, and mastermind facilitator of Simplifying Entrepreneurship. So welcome, Pete. I'm so excited to have you today.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So what is the 4 Ps of business?
Well, I put this little, I just love drawing stuff down, and I map stuff and kind of make these little forms and all that sort of stuff. And a couple months ago, I've been thinking about some different ideas around this idea of how to have sort of this best business. And one of my taglines is that I help people turn their frustrations into freedoms. And from that, it's like, take all of your worries and all those things and add up all the wants that you want out of your business and create the frameworks around those that are going to generate that. And really what it boils down to are these 4 things. And the first one is your product. That's the first P, your product. And I mean, not everybody sells a product. They might be selling service, but it's sort of all in that same piece, and really making sure that your product is something that your client wants. A lot of entrepreneurs get stuck on the fact that they've developed this great thing, but they haven't actually tried it. They haven't tested it. They haven't earned any money from it. And we see it on Dragon's Den. We see it on, the Shark Tank and all this sort of stuff. And they're saying, well, have you ever sold any of these? Yeah. Well, that's a very true thing. I mean, you have to take and test your product and make sure that somebody actually wants that product or service, and that it's giving them value, because people are going to come to you because you solve a problem. But if you're solving a problem that doesn't mean anything to them with the product or service that you have, there's nothing there. Yeah, so it kind of starts with product, starts there. The next step is having the right process in place. And again, we might have the right product. And I had a great, on my podcast the other day, I had a great interview with a wonderful father and son team, and they sell socks. And they talked about how, the first couple of months, they had a few orders, but they grew their business so fast, and it blew up because they got on social media and they got some engagement, and they got hit with, some interviews and different things like that. But they already had the process in place. They were ready for going from sort of 70 pairs a week to 1,000 pairs a week within literally a couple of months of opening. And then they really rolled it out from there. But the thing was, they already were thinking about the processes before that happened. So it allowed them not to get bogged down into the conundrum of, what do I do now? I don't know where to go. I don't know who to speak to and what to do. So setting up the right processes from the beginning and understanding where you want to go, how you want to get there, and using the right tools and frameworks in order to get to there are going to help you for those people just starting. And even for the people that are mired in the frustration and these worries of getting through some of the stuff, even if they've been doing the business. Some of the people I coach have been in business 25 years and they're still working. And I've been in business over 25 years and I'm still working on these processes. We're always trying to make them better, right? And that's another P, I guess, the 5th P, maybe perfection, but there really is no perfection, I don't think. But we're always trying to perfect these things, right? We're trying to tweak our products and our services to make them a little better. We're trying to tweak our processes to make them a little better, all those kind of things. But you have to have that set in place. Then the third one is people, because you don't really need people if you don't have the right product, because you're not going to have anything to sell. And those processes, again, if you don't have that sort of in place, it's really hard to get that team going. Yeah. So once you get those 2 things and you're aligned for the future, you're really starting to, the first few people you kind of bring on who you can. Generally, it's like you're trying to, ultimately that's what ends up happening a lot of times. Like, hey, if you're a warm body, I need somebody to pack those socks or whatever the case is, right? yeah, as you're growing your business, now you're starting to tweak that alignment of people and making sure that you're not just looking for the warm body. You're looking for the person that's going to get the job done for you that you need done in, that what I call the accountability chart, and that's a term from Gino Wickman's book, Traction. It's an organizational chart, but really it's an accountability chart, and who's accountable for those different things. And do you have the right butt in the right seat? I love that framework from the Entrepreneurial Operating System that Gino Wickman wrote that book probably 10 years ago, but still a great book. Yeah. And I recommend anybody to read it. So when you have the right product, the right process, the right people, things run nice. They run smooth. It's a joy. Those frustrations kind of go away. Entrepreneurial freedoms start to happen. The entrepreneur's now saying, wow, this is running a bit more like a machine. This is kind of nice. I've got some freedoms back. I've got a bit of time back. I'm actually seeing, number 4, some profit. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So now we've got some profit, because even if you're in the nonprofit business, that business needs to generate enough money to continue on, right? Without profit, it's one thing, people are in businesses and they get in business because they're passionate about stuff and they're trying to make the changes and do all that. That's all fine and dandy. But ultimately, you still need to make money in order to make those changes. Yeah. And if you have more money, it's easier to make some of those changes, right? And it's easier to give back, and it's easier to help out other people, and it's easier to make those changes and to give yourself as the business owner more freedom. And freedoms are the freedom of time and the freedom of relationships, who you want to work with and who you want to work for. Yeah. You can start becoming more picky on the customers and clients, because, not every client's a great client. So, you can start sort of looking at the ones who are more profitable for you, who align more with your vision, so that you can really, how you can help them, and they know that you can help them. Yeah. And those are the relationships that are most profitable, most enjoyable, give you excitement and energy, as opposed to drain you and make you feel like you're dead at 10 in the morning. And you just want to go home, because that was the most draining thing that ever happened to me, right? So those kind of things are the things you want to get to as we build our business to a turnkey operation. And that's really the idea of what I try to do with Simplifying Entrepreneurship and the people that I coach. It's like, let's set up these things. Let's make sure you're using the right product, have the right product or service. Let's go through some stuff about all that, tweak some stuff out. Let's look at your processes, work through those things. Let's deal with your people, make sure they're being accountable. All of that sort of stuff set you up and give you the systems that are going to help you earn that profit. And once you have that profit, then you can do what you really want with it. Do you want to hire another manager so you can get back more of your time? A lot of entrepreneurs out there, they're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They're not seeing their kids at the hockey game or the swim match. They're not making school plays. They're not seeing their friends and not making, even family vacations sometimes, because they're like, I got to stay. I got to work. Yeah. I've lived it. I've lived that. And, when I look back, it's like, I thought I was doing what I needed to do for my family, taking my MBA, running 2 small businesses, having 3 kids at home, working 80 hours a week, never seeing my wife, that sort of stuff. You think you need to do that, but really there are systems that allow you now, especially with so many things now around automation and the different things that you can do to free up some of your time, setting up email systems, for example, that will save you 2-3 hours a week. Yeah. That's 150 hours a year. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have 150 hours. I don't know about you, but I'd love to have 150 hours back of my life.
Give it to me.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of time, right? That's sitting at the supper table. That's spending some quality time with the people that you want to spend. And so there are different things and tools and ways and systems around that can help give, a lot of entrepreneurs, even if they're working the 60, 70 hours a week, they may be making lots of money, but they might not be enjoying some of the other freedoms of life.
Yeah. No.
And what's that worth,
Yeah, what's that worth? So, but again, right, if you put in the 4 Ps, there's still some constant change happening, because evolving. So
there's always change.
Yeah, every day.
We're business owners.
Yeah,
there's always
right.
change.
So
yeah.
how do you prepare if you go in and being the coach? How do you go in and prepare and set up so to be aware and also be ahead of the game to say, hey, when there is a change, this is how you should look at it.
Well, ultimately, I think leaders deal with change every day, and they're pretty used to dealing with change, and I think that's one of the things that gives that, not everybody has an entrepreneurial mindset. In fact, probably only about 5% of us do. And for those 5%, it's pretty easy to make a decision. And from that perspective, it's whether or not you're making the right decision.
Yeah.
So sometimes we make, and I have this other little tool that, I post it on social and every now and then, and because I call it the confidence gauge. And confidence can be a really good thing or can be a really bad thing. So it's great to be confident, but it's not great to be overconfident. No. And I've lived that one too. Yeah. I've had personal experience where it's like, man, I was way too overconfident on that decision. And it cost me thousands of dollars. Yeah. And those decisions are hard. They're tough. And, they affect other people. They affect your family. They can affect staff members. They can affect all sorts of things. And sometimes people just, entrepreneurs like me, I'm one of these people that has just like, I'm so sure of this, let's just go. I'm not even going to do my homework. Well, you know what? I should have done my homework. And so those kind of things, we've got some different frameworks and tools that it's kind of like, before you do this, maybe you should just run this little 1-page document and get your mind in the right spot and make sure that this is here and take a little bit of this. And, before we got on the call, we were talking a little bit about the difference between coaching and consulting. Yeah. And I think, I'm a coach, I'm not a consultant. And coaches coach people, they guide them, they help them through this sort of thing to make their own decisions. Consultants basically run a done for you model. So it's like you come to a consultant, you say, hey, can you just do my marketing for me? And they're like, sure, we'll do it for you. We'll take it off your hands. Well, coaches don't do that. Coaches come in and they help whoever they're coaching become better. Yeah. They're not doing the done for you. That's a consultant. So if you think of it, we just got off the Olympics. The Olympics were just this summer, right? And if you think of all of the coaches there, every level, I mean, these are the top people in the world. Yeah. And they have coaches. So it always amazes me when business owners at any level, when they don't have a coach to help them through their business, but they'll hire a coach at the gym to help them pump weights, or they'll hire a coach to help them have a better diet, but they won't hire a coach to help them through what they do 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Yeah. It seems a little peculiar to me at times. I mean, I'm in the coaching business, so I think about this kind of stuff, but ultimately, it's really one of those things where coaches and consultants do two different things. And what we're trying to do as a coaching community really is to help and guide those people become better people and better leaders and have better businesses through a lot of the systems and in my case, wisdom and experience too. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, owned lots of different businesses and lots of different, service businesses and retail businesses and stuff like that. So, I've gained, and I'll tell you, I've learned a lot through my mistakes. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through those. So that's a big part of my coaching too, Santa. It's around, listen, I've experienced this. I'll tell you my little story here. You do what you want with it. We're having this discussion, but those are the kind of things like, this is what I've experienced when I've had this, and this is what, I know some of my other clients and they've experienced this, so we can bring that in, and, no names, of course, we're not sharing names and stuff like that, but the experiences, and then we're pulling those into the situation. And it's like, okay, we've got all these different stories, we've got all these different tools, but it's still up to you to make the decision, right? I don't make the decisions for my clients. They need to make the decision. It's their business, right? Yeah.
So we're dressing them, coaching them, and I'm saying dressing with the best tools and educating them. What kind of leadership skills do a good leader need?
Well, for me, I think communication is the number one leadership skill.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's anything more important than being a good communicator. And from that perspective, you need to know how to communicate. Not only to be, a lot of times, especially in newer businesses, I mean, the business owners, the salesperson, they're the back room person, they're everything. They're the front stage person, they're the backstage person,
Yeah.
but ultimately they need to be able to communicate. They need to be able to write, they need to be able to speak, they need to be able to, get across their idea in a succinct manner that's going to make sense for anybody that they talk to. And that really, comes around, and we work through some of those processes around communication too, because there are processes on how to communicate properly, and from that perspective, one of my favorite things is whenever you're trying to communicate something to anyone in your business, whether it's to your supplier, your team, or your client, to use this model. Start with the problem first. Then tell them how you're going to fix the problem through through whatever it is you're trying to get across in that message.
Yeah.
And then show them what life looks like afterwards. So when it comes down to communication, I think this model around delivering the problem first, then the solution, and then what life looks like afterwards is so important. So if you take it into my business, for example, at Simplifying Entrepreneurship, one of the problems might be, and you can have several of these, by the way, whenever you're talking to people on different issues and different problems and things like that. But you might say something like, most entrepreneurs feel frustrated and overwhelmed, tired and struggling to even understand why they're running their businesses. So, I mean, you can go as deep as you want with the problem, right? And then the next part is how can you help them? So at Simplifying Entrepreneurship, we've developed tips, tools, and techniques in order to push you through those to create a life that you're going to want to live through your business. Owning a business shouldn't be a mystery. And then I could say something like, we're going to turn your frustrations into freedoms, right? Yeah. And so that's that last part of saying, what does life look like afterwards? And you say, you're going to have the freedom of time. You're going to have the freedom of, being with and working with who you want to. You're going to live the life that you deserve as a business owner.
Yeah.
So that's that structure of communication. And, if you're trying to push through a structure at work of something, saying that, we talk about change, and there's all sorts of change. So whatever that change is, we're going from hourly employees to salaried employees might be a change that the owner wants to communicate. Well, you would say something like, most people feel that they're not getting what they deserve as an hourly employee, and they want the structure around having a salary and the pension plan and all this other stuff. And they feel as though they're not getting what they deserve. Well, our new pension plan, salary package comes with a health plan and all this other stuff. And you're showing them all the benefits of this new plan, so that you'll enjoy your life at work, feel as though you're getting paid and, earning what you deserve. So you can lay out these things with that problem, the solution, and life afterwards. And it doesn't matter what sort of communication you're trying to put out there, because it's always that same framework. So, that's just one of the ways to communicate as a leader. But understanding some of these frameworks along the way is really going to help people, because communication is such a vital part of growing your business. You're talking to people, you're doing social media, you're having staff meetings in the back. But if people don't really understand you and don't understand the message that you're trying to put across, it's really hard to run a leadership sort of position there, because everybody's kind of going, I don't get it.
Yeah. You need, it's the whole
and if they don't get it
behind it.
And if they don't get it, well, then, we kind of go back, and it's like, we're not going to enjoy that profit. We're not going to get the right people on board, because People follow leaders.
Yeah.
Culturally and all of that other stuff. They want to buy in, especially now after COVID. I mean, we're hearing millions of people quitting their jobs in North America, millions, because they just don't feel that alignment. They don't feel the passion. They don't feel, for so many different things. More important now than ever that leaders are stepping up to the plate with why. The why of their business. And that has to be done through communication. So I don't think there's really anything that's more important than being a good communicator for a leader out there.
Yeah. What about some of the soft skills like self-awareness? Or what about that?
Yeah, I mean, and I think, I look back at my time, 27 years now since I started my first, I'll call it official business. I had businesses, little landscaping businesses and cutting grass businesses and all that stuff when I was, in high school and university. But my first real business coming out of university, 27 years, I think I didn't have the soft skills that I have now. That was some people have those.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've learned a lot more along the way. And I have a lot more empathy now. I think I have a lot more sort of, it's because I've seen a lot of different things and I know more about how the world works, I guess. And I think that's such a key piece of being a leader is to, understand some of that stuff, have empathy and really, see things how other people see, because really and truly, we think, especially early on, like in our younger lives, that people should just see things the way we see them. Yeah. That's just the way it should be. Like, why do they not see it the way I see it?
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, it's so simple. Why don't you just see it the way I see it? Well, they don't. They're different. And that's okay. And that's okay. And in fact, it's helpful for the business that other people see things in different ways. And I love personality tests, and we use them within our business, and I coach with them as well. Some of my favorite ones are the Kolbe. I love the Kolbe test, the KOLBE. One of the key pieces that I have put everybody through in my coaching program. I love strength finders. Mm-hmm. We use a little bit of DISC or some of that stuff, but strength finders and Kolbe are the two that I certainly recommend the most. And when you get into some of that stuff, some of that soft skills, it's like, okay, well, this person is a fact finder and I don't care about facts. I can make a decision like that. Just give me the executive summary. But you need to know that person, when you're sitting with that person, they need to know the facts. Like they need to know. Yeah. They're going to be stalled until you give them the facts, right? If you're sitting around as a group and a team making this stuff. So understanding these soft skills, not only for yourself, but for your team, such an important piece of creating that team-enabled environment that's going to propel your business for growth and future.
Yeah. So what about conflict? Is it good to have conflict in your business, or is it
the right type of conflict?
Yeah.
I think, there's always room for feedback. And I look at conflict, use that word and take it how you want, but I would prefer to use the word feedback. I find conflict abrasive. That's how I think of it. And I don't think there's really any need for abrasive conflict in a business. I really don't. But do I think there should be healthy feedback? Absolutely, I do. And that should be part of the process when you're making decisions. So, we talked about process, setting up the right process. Having a feedback loop within those decision-making parameters is such a vital piece so that even better decisions get made. Like I said, some people, I wish, when we go back to that confidence gauge, I wish I would have spent, because I am somebody who doesn't need a lot of information. I will make a decision fairly quickly. I wish I would have had somebody detail me a bit more information on some of those things so that I could have made a better decision.
Yeah.
So that's where some of the power of that feedback loop comes in. And when you tag in something like Kolbe or Strength Finders, then you understand it's like, oh, you know what? I really need to get some more information on this. And you know what, Sana, she is the person that loves to dig up information. So who am I going to talk to? I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to say, hey, Sana, would you mind digging me up a little bit of information on this? Because we got to make a decision on this next week. And, I just really need your help here. Well, you're going to say, I love digging up information. That's my unique ability and the stuff that I really like doing. I absolutely will do that. And that's going to give you sort of excitement and make you feel good. Whereas for me, it'd be like, oh my God, I got to go and dig up all this information and it's going to drain me. Right. So when you have those sort of different people on your team and you understand their strengths around that sort of stuff, it really becomes a vibrant team and everybody's giving their feedback. And I'm going to take that feedback and then we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about these sort of things. And, one way or the other decision is going to get made, but a better decision will get made because of it. And I think that's the beauty of feedback. And that doesn't have to happen through what I would call conflict. That's just good sort of back and forth, having a strong team.
Yeah. So what about you? Did you have different coaches through your life, or did you
for sure
found everything for yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely have had coaches. I find it hypocritical for people who are coaching that aren't coached themselves.
Yeah.
So I have a coach right now. I mean, I get coaching on different things and I don't have always the same coach at all times. I had a speaking coach. We talk about communications. I wanted to become an even better speaker. I'm starting a podcast this year. And it's like, I want to get better at that sort of stuff. So, I have a speaking coach, or I've had business coaches, or I may have a marketing coach, different coaches along the way, depending on what I needed help with and what I saw, the need for. I've been involved in mastermind groups. All these different things. So, because I'm a big believer in it, I think that, and I continue to be coached and probably always will, to be quite honest, because I have this idea of, I'm never going to learn everything I want to learn. So you see behind me, if anybody's watching the video, I've got all kinds of books and I'm always reading and I'm listening to podcasts. And I love to learn. It's just part of who I am. So I absolutely have coaches and will have coaches probably forever.
That's good. I like that. Yeah. I like it's good, right? It's how you can keep growing as well.
Oh yeah. Love it.
So, yeah.
That's what keeps things interesting for me.
Yeah. So if you have to tell yourself like 10 years ago, give yourself an advice, what would that be?
I think if I take it back 20 years ago, even 20 years ago, back when I was first, that first 5-7 years of business, it would have been, what, you've got a long time ahead of you and it doesn't all have to happen today. And the idea around what I work with companies now, it's like, you can have a turnkey business. You don't have to know everything yourself. Yeah. I used to feel that way. I used to feel if I didn't know it in the businesses that I operated, that I would look stupid to my team or my clients or my suppliers because I'm the owner of the business. Like, I should know the answer to that. Well, you don't have to know. Let your team take care of things. Give them accountabilities. Let it go. What you do have to have is you have to have the right person and the right process to ensure that that's going to be tackled in the right way. Yeah. But you don't actually have to know how to do every single little thing yourself. And that's where the bog down happens with so many people as they grow their businesses and their businesses grow. They're not ready to release. And it's okay to release the accountabilities. It's like a lot of the people that I work with, it's almost giving them permission to release that. I felt it myself. Yeah. And, when I see people having that problem of release, it's like, release it. They can do it. They can. And a lot of times they can do it even better than you can.
Yeah. Find the
expert. Because they're the expert, right? You can't be the expert in everything.
Right? Yeah.
You can't be the expert in everything. Oh. So, you need to know, and don't get me wrong, you need to know what's going on. Like, I'm not saying just like let it go. And, you know, but at the same time, you don't need to have every bit of minutia and every little bit of detail, because, you know, that's where the bog happens, and it stops growth too.
Yeah.
And your people will leave because they don't feel as though you're giving them the authority that they want in part of their growth within your team.
That's a good advice.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, Pete, how where can they find you?
They can find me pretty simply. Just Google Simplifying Entrepreneurship. Just simply Google that. You will find my website there, simplifyingentrepreneurship.com, my podcast. You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Pete Mohr, or on social and Instagram, you know, Facebook at Pete Mohr as well. So I'm pretty easy to find and always happy to chat. The other thing you can do, if you go to my website, that really helps a lot of people, just tag at the top right-hand corner, it says take the assessment, and you go through that assessment for your business. It takes about 10-15 minutes, and it'll kind of align you as to where you may need to work a little bit on and where you're really doing well. So that seems to work well for a lot of business owners, whether you're new in business or been around for a long time. It just gives you a little refresh, and it's like, oh yeah, I really should look at this, or, you know, I really should look at that. But that's pretty much how you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I think it was great. So thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thanks for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, maybe you'd like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure also to check out our website, mindtheinnovation.com. And remember, stay curious and keep learning.